Check, check. Everyone hear me out there? Yep, awesome, good. All right, well, welcome to our last demonstration of the Agri-Food Show this year. This is our, I think, 11th demonstration we've had since Friday. And this one here, honestly, my favorite because I don't know who of you out there likes mashed potatoes, but I am a big fan. So we're today, the demonstration, the final one, just to focus on what we can do with a potato. We're going to show you kind of a technique in making mashed potatoes that I consider to be perfect. All right, now I know that's kind of a big stretch to go and say we're going to make perfect mashed potatoes, but that's what we're aiming to do. And we're going to depend on technique to do it, and I'm going to teach you guys those techniques, okay? Now, I'm done with these gloves. My hands are clean, don't worry. And what you're eating is already done, and it's on its way down, so I think we'll be okay. So, in saying perfect mashed potatoes, you do need some equipment. Not complicated stuff. It should things that you have in your house that have multiple uses. One of those. Or, of course, some of you might have a drum sieve. Not expensive things, just very basic household stuff. You can get it at most, kitchen equipment stores. They come in really handy, okay? It's going to get rid of kind of your little chunks and bits. You sieve it through. And this, of course, is what is known as a ricer. All right? You can get these at Dominion. You can get them. It's not an overly, it's just a very simple piece of equipment. But it makes making mashed potatoes way easier, I know growing up, my father would make mashed potatoes all the time, and it was boil them in a pot, take them out, mash, a little butter, and serve them. It's fine. You can't go wrong. It's a mashed potato. But we're talking about perfection here today. So we want them to be creamy smooth. We want them to be buttery. We want them to be seasoned right. All those characteristics that you would probably say is a perfect mashed potato, okay? So when they make mashed potatoes, say, in France, they literally go 50% butter to potato, all right? So you eat that, hard to say it doesn't taste good because it's got a tremendous amount of fat, and fat is flavor. So we want to try to kind of get that same result without all that butter. Of course, we're going to use some, but not that much, okay? But potatoes will absorb that much butter and liquid when you cook them, okay? So the techniques we're using today, that's my samples, yep. I'll put it right there. So the technique we're using today is basically kind of a two-step approach to your boiling. So instead of just throwing in a pot and turning it on, letting them boil until they're done, what we're going to do is we're going to try to trap the starch in the potato. I'm sure many of you boil potatoes at home, yes? Am I right? What ends up happening to your water? It looks really cloudy, right? Well, what that cloudiness is that's the starch coming out of your potato and into your water. So it's no longer in your potato anymore. Now that starch, number one, is flavorful, and it also gives you a body to your mashed potato, kind of a texture. It kind of holds it together and allows it to kind of shape, right? So in order to replicate that, what we're going to do, in order to keep that starch in those potatoes, all you do, okay, now these potatoes are done. Actually, I'll do it this way. These potatoes are just cut up, peeled and cut up. Now, most of you, when you make mashed potatoes, you probably use maybe a russet potato. Most, yeah? Well, we're going to use waxy potatoes. So we're going to go with a Yukon Gold, all right? The reason we're going to do that is because of the techniques we're using. So starch your potato. We're going to cut it in equal-sized pieces. The thing about cutting it in equal-sized pieces, which makes it important, is it cooks evenly. So you don't get a small bit turned to mush while another bit is undone. So just when you're doing it, just be aware after you peel your potato, wash it, rinse it, and try to cut it in even-sized pieces, okay? That's tip number one, even-sized pieces. Second, and again, you guys, when you hear this, might be like, but if you want perfect mashed potatoes, sometimes you got to take the extra step, okay? So what we do is we get our water up to 160 degrees, all right? When the water reaches 160, now, when I speak, some of you are going to go, nobody ever adds potato once the water's warm, right? I can hear you all thinking it right now. 160 degrees, then add your potato, okay? So you're not adding it to boiling hot water. You're adding it to 160 degrees. So it's not bubbling hot and it's going to splash up and burn you. When you lay your potatoes in at 160 degrees, you're going to want to keep that temperature, because when you drop your potatoes in, your water temperature is going to drop. So you want to get it back up to 160 and hold it for 30 minutes exactly. Exactly 30 minutes, okay? So you leave them out at 160, you get your temperature controlled, you got your thermometer, 160, 30 minutes. After that, you're going to strain them, okay? Rinse them with cold water and put them back on full boil and just let it go. And then when the potatoes are fully cooked by touch, and you all know, I'm sure, boiling the potatoes, you put a little knife through it. When they're soft and tender, you know they're good, okay? So I'm just going to kind of explain that one more time. 160 degrees your water, add your potato, bring back to 160. Hold for 30 minutes, drain, rinse, back into a pot, fresh water, full boil until they're cooked, okay? And that's where they're at right now in this pot, all right? Everyone understand? Any questions? Perfect. So what we get are cooked, even pieces of potato, all right? We're just going to strain these off. Making a mess here, I know, but what's the point to be cooking if you're not going to make a mess, right? Now that I got my potatoes cooked, I'm going to crack into my ricer, all right? So we're going to make it super easy. So, you know, most people have a masher at home, and you mash away, and you tend to work it, and you're working it, and you're still seeing the chunks, and you're like, oh, I got to get these chunks out, and you can mash it all day, and they're not coming out, right? I'm sure you've all had it. You eat it, you get that little nugget of potato, and you're like, God, I wish it was just smooth, all right? This is definitely going to help, all right? So all we do is we just drop our potatoes in. You can fill that thing up. I'll do this high so you guys can kind of see it. All right. And what you're going to get is this nice kind of riced potato. All right. I'm just doing an illustration here. We got the samples down below, so I'm just going to put those aside for now. Normally, I would keep going until that bowl was full, okay? And what you can see is you get this kind of really light, kind of, almost, it's rice. Almost looks like little bits of rice, okay? Super soft and no chunks in it, okay? But we ain't done yet, all right? There's still work to be done yet. So next, what we're going to do, actually, I'm going to rice a little bit more of that. Just be patient with me here. I think we were a little rushed up there today, and I don't think we brought these to full boil for long enough, so they're a little firm on me. But we're not going to eat these. These are just for illustration. All right. So I've got a little bit of my potato here. Let me cross that over. I'm losing track here, guys. Let me get this out of the way. All right, so we've got our rice potato. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm going to put a little bit of milk, about 1 cup, onto another saucepan. And I'm going to take the peels from the peeled potato, and I'm going to put that right into the milk. Okay? So imagine I got a big bowl of riced, potato here. I'm going to put and I'm going to turn that on the heat. What's going to happen is I'm going to take the starch and the flavor from that peel, and I'm going to put it in that milk, all right? Because there's tons of flavor in that peel, and there's also tons of nutrients in there. So I'm going to soak all that out and get all the draw from the peel and into the milk, okay? And that's going to be my milk mixture at the very, very end, okay? So that's just I'm just going to let that go and kind of let that the heat come through it, and let that do its thing, okay? So while I'm doing that, I'm going to get back to my potato, and I'm going to add my butter, all right? And if you want, what I like to do is put the butter in the bowl and rice the hot potato over the butter, okay? It's a nice little easy thing to do. So we're going to put our butter in. And again, the recipes are out there for you guys. You can follow the recipes to the kind of right measurements. You know, butter to... So I've got about 25% butter in there to the potato. But like I say, potato will absorb quite a bit. We can definitely add half of that again, you know, and again if you want, right? But just being health conscious, we kind of mix that together, and we get that melting with the potato. Now we haven't seasoned yet. We haven't added any milk. All we've done is cook our potatoes at 160 for a half hour, brought them to a full boil, and put them through that ricer. Now I'm just mixing butter through, let it melt. And this is where the next step comes in, okay? I'm going to get this bowl back, and I'm going to use my drum sieve because I like it. But you can always use one of these as well, okay? So if you got one of those, you can take it and just kind of use the back of a spoon and kind of scrape, but I've got my little scraper here. You can use, what really works well is those little dollar dough scrapers. You guys know what they are, little plastic dough scrapers? They're great for this. I've got this, it's not the best, but it'll do. So again, my butter and my potato are together. Now, I want to take it through a really fine sieve. So you can see in the ricer, the holes are fairly big, right? I don't know if you can get a shot on that there. The holes are really big in that ricer. In this here, the holes are super fine. So what we're doing is we're kind of taking it from, we're ricing it smooth, but fairly ricey. And then we're taking those rice chunks, mixing it with butter, and then we're going to sieve it through here. So it's a few steps, but trust me, very well worth it, okay? So then we just lay that in our sieve, and then we're just going to kind of sieve that through into the bowl. And all the while, you can see my milk is it's coming to a heat. You can smell the peel, and you can smell the potato coming through the milk. It's really nice. You guys see that in the mirror? You guys see that? Can you get it? So I'm just going to rice that through and kind of pass that through the sieve. And what's happening is the texture of these potatoes with the trap starch are really going to have a body and a texture and a mouthfeel that's going to be different than any other mashed potato you've had. All right? So I know it seems like it's a little kind of task focused, but again, in the pursuit of perfection, you need to take those extra steps. So if you're doing a dinner party for friends and you want to have a nice side and you want to do a perfect mash, you make this the day ahead. Put it in your fridge, completely done. Throw it into a, whoops. We don't want to have spoiled or boiled over milk, do we? I'm going to turn that off. You can make this a day ahead, put it in your fridge, throw it into a pot like this, put it on your heat, and there's so much butter in there and cream that when the heat comes through, it just totally comes back to exactly where it needs to be. This is not something you have to make the day of or right before a meal. This is something you can do a day, even 2 days in advance. All right? So it's not something it's something that you can get ahead of yourself if you're planning on having guests over. Or you know what? Like I know if I cook for my family, I want to impress them. So I'm always going that extra mile. And there's nothing better than seeing your family enjoy something that you made and go, this is the best mashed potato I ever had. Something to that, right? You're like, yeah, because I worked at it. I did those extra steps. I took that extra mile. And there's just something really special about it. So now, this drum sieve, as you can see, I passed every bit of potato I had through this sieve. I didn't have to work too hard at it, just had to kind of stay at it. And what I get is now a really, really nice, one of my favorite words, beautiful mashed potato. Okay, but we're still not done. All right, we still got stuff to do. So next, we've got our milk. So I'm going to just strain a little bit of my milk mixture into my potato. And then we're going to incorporate in that milk. And you can see, can we see that? We can see that milk is coming into those potatoes, and it's creating a very smooth, very non-chunky, delicious, buttery potato. And then our last step, our final step, we're almost there, is to season. All right? And you want to season well. Don't be shy on the salt. It can handle it. All right? You got a potato in there. It's full of starch. You got butter and fat. Nothing wrong with salt. Salt's like a magnifying glass of flavor. You can have all kinds of flavor in there, but if you don't have salt, it's like you can't see it or taste it. So salt's important. So if you notice you're not picking up on the rich butter and the smooth potato, and chances are it's not seasoned properly. Okay. All right. So what we got in the end, just to try to give you guys an idea here, is we get a really smooth, can we just kind of get in on that? What we got here is an incredibly smooth, non-chunky, incredibly flavorful mashed potato, okay? And then what you can do to plate that up is, make a nice little bed in the middle of your plate, put your meat over it, a little veg around the side, a little sauce, boom. Beautiful, easy, simple, and straightforward. So that's it. So just to recap, thank you for the applause. little premature, but I appreciate it. Enthusiasm is noted. Just to recap what we got: pot with water, evenly cut potatoes, 160 degrees, 30 minutes, full boil till they're cooked. Through the ricer, add butter. Through the drim sieve, add your milk that's been cooked with your potato peels, and finish with salt and pepper. Put it in the fridge, take it out, put it on the stovetop, let some heat come through it at medium to medium-low, and just keep mixing it, and it'll just keep folding off the edges. And when the heat's through, cover it and wait till you're ready to serve. All right? So what we got here is we've got what we made for you guys. All right? And as you can see, absolutely delicious. All right? Who wants to try this? Yeah? You want to try? How about we all try, yeah? All right. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to shift myself into position. And then if I can get my friend Jamie to come on up here, maybe give us a hand. And like I say, even if you don't want to go through all those steps, you can still do things like take your milk and use your peel. So instead of just discarding your peel, extract the nutrients from it, get the starch from it, and at least put that in your mashed potatoes, right? At least butter it. And you don't have to do a second sieve. You can just get a ricer and just rice it. That'll still get rid of your fairly big chunks. So this recipe doesn't have to be followed to a T to get great mashed potatoes. But again, we called this demonstration perfect mashed potatoes, so we wanted to strive for what we call perfection, right? All right, so, Jamie, maybe I get a hand from you? And we can start serving out some of the samples of this mashed potato. Someone took my spoons. We'll grab some plastic spoons from that booth. All right, I'm going to start portioning this. We got napkins for everyone. Okay, so all right, guys, I think we're ready. So if you want to come on up and have a taste, I'll scoop and you pass, yeah? Now you grab